thinking, well, I might do a personality test, for example.
Well, and there's also the way that it's even designed. So you could, if you wanted, do something called privacy by default, which means that your privacy settings, if you were, for instance, to have an account on Facebook, are set to default be the highest, the most protective. And then if you wanted to share your data, you would be requested every time to give your consent. But that way, that would always protect kids, for instance, and it would allow adults to know, how is my data being used? Right now, it's the opposite. They put the onus on you, the user, to set your privacy settings, but they're actually really hard to find in the website. They're constantly changing all the time, and you need a legal degree, really, to read them.
To figure it out. Because, so there's one thing for us to be savvy, but then there's the other question about these large technology companies need to be more responsible.
Well, I don't know if it's just down to them. This is where I think it's them, it's government, it's regulators, and it's the public. I think it's literally a networked problem, and it's going to require a networked solution. Because right now, they're just going to do what they need to make money as long as it's within the law, right? So if we want to improve the way that that process works, we're going to have to strengthen the laws, and we're going to have to empower our regulators to enforce it.
Because in many ways, it feels like we've created this technology and we didn't quite understand or realize where it would take us, or you know, the fact that much of our data is out there.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, is what are you getting in exchange for this supposedly free product or service? You realize you are the product, not just for these social media companies, but for everyone that they are selling your data onto. And I think that's what's so horrifying about this is, I might not even be on these sites, but if I'm in your network, if you and I are friends, they can still work out my data points based on you. That's how finely tuned this technology is now. And that's what I mean when I say it's not realistic to expect an individual user to be able to fight that. It's too sophisticated now.
Is this now a turning point, do you think, as you say, trying to you know, get the best out of a crisis?
It's only going to be a turning point if we enforce it. So if all of this just goes away, and this is about, you know, more sort of talking shop moments in the US Congress and on the floor of the UK Parliament and the European Parliament, and no one does anything, then no. We, the public, will have to push for this with our elected representatives, and we'll have to insist that laws are changed, executives are held to account, if a crime is found to have occurred, that it's prosecuted, and fines administered if need be, and then that we change the laws and empower our regulators.
And are governments listening? Are they sitting up now and thinking, okay, we need to do something about this?
I think that they are listening in the sense that they're making the appropriate noises. So we know here in the UK that they've recalled or they've invited Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg to come in person, not to send his legal counsel, him specifically. Ditto, we would want to see something like that in the US Congress. Will we see it in the European Parliament? Will we see it in other European member states? That's what we need to see. We need to see the proof.
Stephanie Hare, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now let's go to China, where the epic two-week National People's Congress has concluded. So how has this year's gathering further cemented one man's rule over the country? Well, we saw the limit on presidential terms abolished, so Mr. Xi can, if he wants, stay in power indefinitely. And today he emphasized that unity was the hope of all Chinese people and that any attempt to divide China was doomed to fail, as Robin Brandt reports from Beijing.
What's the rush when you're in the job for as long as you want? Xi Jinping is now stronger than ever, and with China rising, he's described as the core of a new era in this country. He ends this session of the National People's Congress re-elected as president and head of the military by a very small group of overwhelmingly Communist Party figures. But he's still reminding them of their revolution.
In modern times, the realization of the great rejuvenation of the country has become the greatest dream of the Chinese people. The Chinese people are firm, indomitable, and